Something from Lamar.
That's Lamar Dixon.
Oh, the balloon festival stuff. Okay.
I'd like to call to order this regular meeting of the Ascension Parish Council, September 19th. At this time, we'll invite Mr. Martin McConnell to lead us in the invocation, and if you will stand and remain standing for the pledge.
Our Father in heaven, we thank you for the freedom and the ability that you've given us to gather here. We gather in your name to help your people. Please give us the wisdom and the guidance that we need to make the right and the best decisions for everybody so that we do your work in your name for your people. At this time, we ask you to remember our parish employee, Clyde Landry, who is suffering illness and is gravely ill. We ask that you bring him comfort and comfort to his family. We also ask you to look after our neighbors, our brothers and sisters in the Beaumont, Texas area who are suffering rain and inundation right now. Please bring them through this cataclysmic weather safely and make them whole very soon. And as always, we pray for our brothers and sisters in uniform who are protecting our lives, protecting our way of life. Bring them home safely and soon to their families. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much. I only see that Councilman Travis Turner is not with us. I have not heard from him, so I'm not sure if he'll be late or if he is not going to be in attendance. There are no chairs additions. I will remind the public that as we get to the item on the agenda about which you would like to speak, you may certainly comment. You'll have 3 minutes. You may pick up a red or a green card there on the from the secretary or on the podium. Fill that out and get it back to the secretary. So you will be called upon to speak at the appropriate time. Number 5, presentations. A proclamation to proclaim Lamandola's Supermarket Day in Ascension Parish. Mr. President.
Anthony and Glenn, y'all come up, please. Whereas in 1873, Antonio Lamandola traveled to Ella, Sicily, to New Orleans, and then to Alverta Plantation, where he worked in the cane fields for 50 cents a day. He later married his wife, Maria, also from Sicily, through an arranged marriage, and together they raised 5 children. Antonio opened a barroom and a fruit and lunch stand across from where Lamandola's Supermarket stands today. And whereas Antonio's son, Angelo, followed his father's footsteps by peddling bananas, he opened a bottling company and later a bakery. Angelo drove a horse-drawn carriage through the parish selling bread for 10 cents a loaf. While selling bread, he met his wife, Ava, and together they had 4 children, Ruby, Ann, Nolan, Sonny, Glenn, and Anthony, Tony. And whereas in 1936, Angelo opened Pleasing's Food Supermarket, where the fruit and lunch stand originally stood, connected to the founder's home. The store made and sold its own boiled ham and had a ripening room where the bananas sold by the pound. Angelo's son Sonny and Glenn began to work with their fathers, learning the grocery business. They both worked as butchers and in the morning before school, cutting all the meat by hand and cleaned the milk bottles before pickup. In 1947, they expanded Pleasing Food Supermarket where it would remain and is located for another 10 years. And whereas up to then, Angelo got his groceries by driving to 4th Street in Baton Rouge and to the New Orleans French Market. But in 1957, he joined the Associated Grocers, and in 1958 moved the store to where it is currently standing, renaming it to Lemon-Dolo Supermarket. In 1960, Sonny bought out his brother and father. He became the youngest member of Associated Grocers Board of Directors, and eventually served as both president and vice president of AG. Sonny and his wife Nola had 5 children: Craig, Blair, Jill, Bill, and Jan. And whereas during the 1960s, because of a large demand, Lemon-Dolo's opened a cradle business supplying groceries to ocean-going ships on the Mississippi River. At the time, AG did not have a liquor or tobacco department, so Sonny also established Lemon-Dolo's Bond Store, which supplied tax-free tobacco, liquor, and beer to the ships. And whereas in 1973, Sonny's son Blair began working in the store or learned the grocery business from his father. And in 1980, Sonny expanded the store from 6,000 square feet to the current 20,000 square feet and moved the entrance from the face of Burnside Avenue to whereas in 1989 and 1991, Blair won the title Jambalaya Champion of the World, and in 2003, he won the Champ of Champs cooking contest. This put Lemon-Dolo Supermarket on the map as the best place around town for all jambalaya, drawing people from around the country for its large selection of cast-iron pots and cooking supplies. In 1995, Sonny sold the store to Blair and his wife Linda. Blair and Linda had 2 daughters, Eva and Daphne. And whereas in 2013, Blair's daughter Daphne bought the store, making her the 5th-generation merchant and 4th-generation owner of Lemon-Dolo Supermarket, which remains one of the oldest family-owned and operated establishments in Ascension Parish, because of the value and the practice of the same traditions that Angelo instilled in them more than 80 years ago. Now therefore, I, Kenny Matassa, President of the Parish of Ascension, State of Louisiana, by virtue and authority vested in me, proclaim September 19, 2019 as Lemon-Dolo's Day in Ascension Parish. If any of y'all can remember, I was in a restaurant business, and I was going to New Orleans for the Italian supplies, and one day Blair said, "What you need?" I said, "Well, man, we need a big thing of cheese." He said, "Well, is 25 pounds big enough?" I said, so anyway, we started getting a lot of supplies from them, and went on the ship with them all before. But anyway, great business. You wouldn't be in business if it wouldn't be run correctly. And I just want to congratulate y'all for every day of it. Thank y'all. Let's go over here, and then they're going to come.
Get up in here.
Everybody's here?
Already, got to get behind Kenny.
Looking bunch of people. Fellas? That looks good. Okay. If Blair is jambalaya, you know why he's a multi-champion. Fantastic. Thank you and congratulations.
Blair. Cat. Blair. Take care, brother. Appreciate everything, man. I'm gonna leave with you.
Yeah. Item number 6, the parish president's report. Mr. Matassa.
Okay, I know some of y'all got calls. We've been working on that Tyler system for a pretty good while now. I thought we could do it in 6 months, and it's been 2 years so far, and we're still working. But in October, we're going to go live with payroll. And what that means is we're going to get rid of paper. And even though most of the employees have computers or iPhones, some of them don't. So this week coming up, we're going to train everybody that does it, because we have a kiosk at DPW for them to pull up their own stuff, and kind of have it in a private setting where they can see their own stuff. And we're going to assist them on that and make it simpler. But we got to move in the 21st century, and that's part of it. Now, if you realize, we started with finance going on it with Tyler. Well, then we went to purchasing, and now HR is on, so we're ready to do the payroll. But every step of the way, finance and Brandon O'Day's people have to work with every department, which I'm telling you is a lot of hours, but it's just something that got to be done. If you can imagine, the sheriff's office and the school board, they own a payroll system, have been on it. We've been on the AS400. And so you're going to see your dollars being spent right, and in the years to come, hopefully everybody will get along very well. The next department we're going to take on is utilities. Now, we're doing them all. There's no options. Everybody's on or they're out. You know what I'm saying? So I appreciate all of y'all's support, and I thank all of Gwen's workers and O'Day for all of that extra hard work in purchasing and HR, so many hours of overtime. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We're glad to see that system coming online. Thank you very much. Item number 7, the consent agenda. The secretary will read those, please.
Approval of Selection Committee recommendation for the Geotechnical Assistance RFQ Project ENG 19026. Approval to renew the DPW survey and retainer contract at the budgeted amount of $150,000 to be shared among the following: BFM Corporation LLC, Bryant, Hammett and Associates, Earls and Associates LLC, Quality Engineering, and T. Baker Smith. Approval to allocate $1 million from Transportation Impact Fee District Number 2 to the Move Ascension program for the following: Roddy Road, LA 935, LA 621, clearing and grubbing, $400,000. Roddy Road, US 61, LA 935, clearing and grubbing, $400,000. Roddy Road, US 61, LA 621, right-of-way and utility revocation, $200,000. Approval to allocate $3.2 million from Transportation Impact Fee. This is supposed to say for District Number 3 to the Move Ascension program for the following projects: LA 930, clearing and grubbing, $425,000. LA 930 widening construction, $560,000. LA 73 at Brown Road construction, $715,000. LA 73 at Oakland Drive, $700,000. LA 73 at Henry Road, $800,000. Resolution in support of funding traffic light at the intersection of Highway 44 and Loosemore Road pending LA DOTD approval. Authorization for the Transportation Department to conduct a feasibility analysis for providing safety enhancements along Lemonville Cutoff Road. Amendment number 4 to master contract for professional services between Gulf South Engineering and Ascension Parish, additional geotechnical testing with an increase of $200,000 for a total contract not to exceed $500,000. Change order MC01 asphaltic concrete pavement preservation 2019 through 2020. Master contract. Approval of industrial tax exemption program for Reagent Chemical and Research, Inc. Plant Expansion Project ID 201-90153-ITE. Renewal of audit engagement contract for the 2019 audit. Change order number 1 to the master contract for public works construction between Delcon LLC and Ascension Parish Government for a parish-owned building in Sorrento for additional scope of work to add 3 windows to the building in the amount of $3,000, total contract amount not to exceed $47,750. Certificate of substantial completion, Delcon LLC, Ascension Parish Government parish-owned building in Sorrento. Bid items to accept lowest responsive bid as follows: temporary staffing services, RFQ Lofton Staffing Services and Discritter, Inc. Preventative maintenance services, RFP stationary and mobile generators, reaward Total Energy Solutions. Crack sealing material, Covington Sales and Service, Inc., 72 cents a pound. Senior Citizen Wellness Center, Acadian Commercial Contractors, LLC. Rebid DPWE Garage Addition and Time Shop Renovation, J. Reed Constructors, Inc. Emergency feeding for parish workers during a declared emergency, RFP Ralph's Market. Proposed ordinance to acquire a commercial sewer system from Galvez Commons with ACUD number 2. RFP SCADA Support Service and Maintenance, ICE Sales and Services, LLC.
Motion.
I'll second that.
Would anyone like to remove any item from the consent agenda, please?
Madam Chair,
Yes, Mr.
due to item 7I, I have to abstain, so I'm going to abstain from the whole consent agenda, so we just don't have to pull that item out and vote on it separately.
All right, and I do have some comments that would like to be made by the public at this time, so I will pull those. Ms. Mildred Blaylock. Do you desire to speak, Ms. Mildred? All right, thank you very much. Ms. Teresa Robert. This is on item 7E.
Correct. And Ms. Millie had marked off in support but
Thank
did
you.
not want to speak. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you this evening. I'm here to support your resolution to fund a traffic light at the Highway 44 Loosemore Brittany intersection. This is a very dangerous intersection, not only because of the heavy traffic passing on this highway daily, but because of the large number of chemical trucks mixed in the traffic. Over the past 2 years, Ascension residents have signed and submitted through our senator multiple petitions to DOTD and just this week to Governor Edwards, pleading for a traffic light there. DOTD has repeatedly stated that they will be building a roundabout, yet that will take probably 3 to 5 years. It's only a matter of time before a child, a mother, or an entire family is killed trying to traverse this intersection. A red light could prevent this type of fatality. Citizens are watching to see if Governor Edwards will help save lives in our community. Thank you.
Thank you.
I had the motion.
We have
Second.
one more comment. Mr. Joel Robert.
Good evening. I'm here in support of the resolution 7E in favor of the red light. I, too, signed a petition 2 years ago, signed a petition a few weeks ago. I don't feel like we need to go over all the reasons. I kind of feel like we're all on the same page. But I do want to ask Governor Edwards to show that he has some concern for Ascension Parish, because he could easily expedite the permit process and expedite having DOTD move this to the top of their list. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
God bless.
Okay. So we had a motion by Councilman Kluwat, a second by Councilman Dempsey Lambert. Dempsey had one
What I'd like to
concern.
do is make sure that the 3.2 million comes out of District 3, transportation impact fee.
Yes,
I think the secretary had stated.
the secretary had
Okay.
stated that. Yes,
All
she
right.
had. So are there any questions? Any objections? Hearing none, that motion passes. Dempsey, Cinnamon, we did have one abstention. Item number 8, East Ascension Drainage Recommendation, a resolution approving an agreement with the Capital Region Planning Commission for the purpose of applying for grant funding and acting in support of watershed region management activities and in conjunction with the State of Louisiana Watershed Initiative. This was brought by Chairman Lambert and the Drainage Commission.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I'd like to give it over to Mr. William Daniel.
Senator Travis has arrived. Councilman Turner has arrived.
Thank you, Madam Chair, council members. So the resolution that we discussed with the wording that we discussed the last time, that is before you. Kind of an update we had a teleconference with all the parishes represented, well, most of them, I think, if not all. They've kind of decided the same thing as Ascension Parish, that they would like to go with the Capital Region Planning Commission. So that resolution is before you tonight for final passage. I'm also passing out, we had discussed last time the makeup of the two committees. I have some better information. I went to the meeting Monday as Councilman Cagnalotti was there, and President Matassa, and several other Ascension Parish employees. If you look at number 6, that is basically West Ascension. They're in District 6. Now, the gray areas on those are required. So,
Two different ones.
of the parishes, there's 16 parishes in District 6. So of the gray area, they have to fill out, they're going to get 19 total positions. So the gray area, they've got to have at least 7 members from the gray. The blue is optional. They don't have to have anybody from the blue, and they can fill the rest of the committee. The rest of the 12 members can come from the gray area, or they can pick some of the blue area. So, the blue is academic, water conservation, soil water conservation, regional planning, builder, developer, et cetera. So that's basically the way it works, and it's the same way for District 7. They have 7 required positions for the 13 parishes that are in there. Last time on the list, St. Charles was not. We had 12, now we have St. Charles, so 13. So of the 17 positions, 7 have to come from the gray. So there's got to be at least 1 floodplain manager, 1 local drainage or levee district person, 1 local engineer, 1 natural resource professional, and 3 community representatives. But you can also fill the remaining spots up with that, or you can go into the blue and pick somebody there. There were a lot of questions about this in the committee hearing. I think I would say that based on the questions and the people that I talked to afterwards, everybody's a little concerned about this kind of makeup here. So, but Pat Forbes said, we're learning as we're going along, so, there could be changes to it. So, and actually they increased the date when you have to apply. It was the 1st, and I think now it's the 15th. Yes, sir. So now it's the 15th, but I see that Mr. Jamie Setz from the Capital Region Planning Commission is here, and I'm going to yield to him unless y'all have some questions for me.
That'll be fine. Jamie, we welcome you to the podium.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. I'm here any questions y'all might have about this makeup and how we've gotten forward to the day, sir. Yes, sir.
Oh, the chair will recognize me. but I
Mr.
just had my
Kluwat.
hand up. Thank you for coming, Jamie, and I'm going to just let everybody know up front, we've got a lot of discussion on this, and I'm sure there's a lot going forward. And I'm hoping that the makeup and everything is not written in stone right now, so, but tonight, I don't have a problem making a motion on this, because I do think that, to have a say-so, you got to at least be at the table, and
Yeah, and I want to clarify, it's kind of an opaque system. They didn't really make it very clear on how this is working. What we're doing here is we're forming a steering committee of the 13 parishes, and over the next year, almost year and a half, we'll be putting together the actual watershed council along with its recurring funding needs and starting to put together the plans. But this first effort is just a $400,000 effort per region, so $3.2 million statewide that came out of the Restore Act money. This is not part of the $1.2 billion, but that is the process we're going to be building to access that $1.2 billion.
yes. So thank you, and appreciate everything, but at some point, I'll have the motion on this to move
We'll give you
forward.
give us just a few moments, if you will, Randy, and or you can have a motion and we'll have a second, and then we'll continue our discussion.
I'll second it for discussion.
All right? We have a motion and a second, and Chair will entertain a discussion. Mr. Lawler.
Thank you, Jamie. I'm gonna get yelled at. Thank you, Jamie, for coming tonight. One of the things I just noticed, this chart at the bottom for your reference, watershed demographics, number of RC members, considerations. It looks like they're making recommendations that we have to have a certain number of, according to this, depending which one you look at, if you're in Region 6, we have to have, or they're recommending 5 people under the age of 19.
No, that's just the demographics of the region.
Yes.
But it's the number of RSC members.
You see all the way
On
to
the
the
left
left.
side.
Look at the second
It appears that they're making
second
a
line all the way to the
recommendation
left.
that we get 5 teenagers on this board.
No, I think, no, that is that's the makeup from the column coming down, Councilman. I asked them about that, and they said that's just for reference purposes only.
Yeah, this form, I think, this worksheet is part of a HUD template that they had to use to fill out for the money, and so that's where this template came from.
Now, I understand, it seems to be shoddy workmanship, and that's what I'm worried about this whole thing, that it seems pretty shoddy, because I look at it, it says, number of RSC members and considerations, and it's for reference. It's not based on the percentages. It looks like they're recommending that you have 3 people under the age of 19
Yeah,
on
they're
this.
not, they're not.
Okay, I mean, but, if this is the type of work that we're getting from them, I already don't have very much confidence in what this group is gonna do. I'll be honest with you, I'm not a big fan of the way this is set up. I understand that if we don't go forward with this, we're not gonna have a seat at the table. But I think that the parishes that flooded should have greater representation. I hope this group will continue to work towards that.
Yep.
That this council is gonna continue to argue that we have greater representation. I also, I believe that, although community representation is good, I think we need to ensure that we have academics in the field, that we also have soil and conservation, agricultural community represented, guaranteed represented. I mean, they've got 3 community representatives, teachers, faith-based leaders, social workers, dealing with our floodplains, yet we don't have to have a regional planning and development district or an MPO. That doesn't seem to make much sense to me. We don't have to have an environmental nonprofit. I've said it before, but the Pontchartrain Basin Foundation would be perfect to have on here, but they're going to require community representatives, 3 of them. And that just seems to me, it's very political, the way they're setting this up. I'm not happy about it, but I don't think that we have any other choice.
You would not be alone, Councilman.
I'm sure I'm
There were
not.
quite a few people that were unhappy about the way this was set up.
Well, misery loves company, so thank you. That's all I have.
Mr. Dawson.
Thank you. First, let me preface this by saying that I'm not against CPRC being the manager or what's the title? What's the title?
Fiscal agent.
Fiscal agent. Sounds kind of strange, but, I'm not against that, and I just wanted to take a minute and go over how bureaucratic this is. You're talking about 8 zones in the state. They call them watershed zones, but they're not based on waterheads.
Nope.
Watersheds. They're based on political boundaries. I mean, really and truly, we're a part of 13 parishes. They call it a watershed zone, but the Amite River, what we're concerned about and what got this money here was a 2016 flood. And so if you look at what we're proposed to go in, which is Zone 7 or Region 7, they have 5 parishes that are out of the Amite River Basin in there, and there are 13 parishes in there to get boats. So how are we going to get anything? My point is, and my position is very clear, that the Amite River Basin needs to be a watershed region by itself. The $1.2 billion, Congressman Graves and everybody else will tell you the reason they got that is because of damages that occurred in 2016 in our parish and in the other parishes. Now, there are 3 parishes in this Region 7 that are in the top 6 of the 2016 flood. And then they're grouping us together with 10 other parishes that sustained little or no flooding. I mean, I don't know what West Feliciana got in 2016, but my guess is it was fairly small, but they're getting an equal vote and they're getting equal
There are
representation.
six parishes in our region.
That we're in the top 10.
Well, maybe,
They're in the top
I'm
10.
talking about the top six. In the top six, we have 3 out of the top 6 that are in this region right here. My main thing is that this is a political boundary. There's no question about that. You can't tell me this is a watershed because it doesn't go into a single river or a single drainage basin. This is more than one drainage basin. We want to be a part of a basin that is comprised of the Amite River Basin, period.
That's an artifact of the governor's office and the state government.
I don't care what it
built
is. That's the fact is that they got the money based on the damages that incurred in the Amite River Basin in our parishes and other parishes that have joined us. And so, there's no reason that we should be grouped together with all the rest of these. Secondly, let me see if I got this summary right. There are 8 regions, zones, I don't know what you call them.
That's correct.
I call them BS. But, and there's 17 members in this committee. I don't know how many there are in the others. But so we have 8 of these big committees that have between 15 and 17 members. Now imagine what's going to be accomplished by that. We all know, we have 11 people here. Imagine if we had 17 sitting here. Now, the way I understand this, of course, I'm going to start off with this CPRC. Now, I know what that stands for, okay? But then what we're all in competition for is this CDBG, Community Development Block Grant. And then the Community Development DR, Disaster Relief. And then that reports to a watershed coalition comprised of OCD, I thought that was something kids had, CPRA, GOSEP, Emergency Preparation, DOTD, and DWF, and then they all report to LWI. I mean, Jesus. It's absolutely ridiculous. And I look at the schedule of this. 2022, what they say is all the money's going to be dispersed by 2022. Guess what money they're talking about? They're not talking about the 1.2 billion. There won't be a nickel of the 1.2 dispersed. It's the 400,000 that everybody gets for organizing. It's going to take them 3 years to organize? It's ridiculous. I yield, Madam Chair.
I hear you, Mr. Ditto. Mr. Satterley.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman, and thank you, Mr. Seats, for being here this afternoon. And William and Councilman Dawson is extremely hard to follow this evening, not in terms of following what he said, but what he said was so compelling, I hate to even go second. But I'm going to do something rare for the old chicken doctor and just, cut right to the chase. I think the important thing here tonight, and we can vet this all over like we did last time, nobody's happy for a plethora of reasons, many of which was expressed last time and more again tonight. So it's a truly who's on first and who's on second situation. But, Madam Chairwoman, what I see is the amendment I asked for is in the packets tonight for our council under the now therefore be resolved clause, which I said last time is really the only important clause in this resolution. And it says for the people at home that are playing right along that we are resolved that we agree that we are going to work with CRPC, the Parish of Ascension is, quote, for the purpose of applying for grant funding. In other words, the seat at the table everybody's been talking about. So happy and not happy, we're being told, you want to have a seat, you better reserve one. So, let's move this. I mean, I really don't see more and more discussion ain't going to change this resolution. It's not going to, I don't see how we can edit and put conditions on it in any meaningful way at this point. But I would charge the chair of this committee, the chair of the EA Drainage Commission, Mr. Dawson, who seems very passionate and spoke very well on this topic tonight and obviously done his homework, that the 3 of y'all or more or whatever underneath a quorum really follow this thing through with Mr. Daniel and be sure that Ascension Parish gets its fair share. There is absolutely no doubt that what Mr. Dawson said is real. These federal dollars flowed because damage was extant and provable in parishes that are easy to identify, but yet the program, whether it comes down from, I don't want to get political about it right now because we're all running for election, the governor's office or whatever, and how it's being done. We've seen this before. That's just really shameful. I don't even know what adjective to put on it. But I don't know. Do we want to call a question here, or do we want to debate for another 20 minutes that the only thing we're agreeing to is a seat at the table?
I just have a closing comment.
Well, I think there's some other folks who would like to comment. Thank you, Mr. Satterley. Are there any further comments? Mr. Dempsey Lambert.
Yeah, Jamie, and you mentioned a year and a half. What are you expecting to have in place in a year and a half? What are you trying to?
The intention is to have stood up a watershed committee for the Region 7, and that it will have a certain number of deliverables attached to that, but within 3 years to have a plan together that we send up to the Louisiana Watershed Council to have them start acting on it and producing projects and funding projects for reducing base flood elevations, which I believe is what this is for.
Yeah.
It's just, we'd have no more time. Look what's happening right now in Texas, okay? Everyone is just, out of their, it's terrible. But, we need something quicker than this. And I don't know when we get to the table here, or even if we get to the table.
Well, there's a lot of moving parts that aren't even covered by this. You have Corps of Engineer environmental impact statements that are going on. You have the modeling that DOTD is doing on all these different watersheds across the state. We're kind of in a better position because the Amite River Basin has one of the only models and will be one of the first 3 done in the state. So we're going to be ahead of the curve from the other 58 or 55 watersheds. That's good news.
Jamie, if I may, I want to remind you, simply because we have you here, and we can, that in October of 2018, the East Ascension Gravity Drainage Commission passed a resolution authorizing us to evaluate projects and to be able to apply for a portion of this $1.2 billion grant. That was in October of 2018. Mm-hmm. Those evaluations of possible projects should include, but are not limited to, one project that will remove water from Bayou Manchac and put that water in the Mississippi River. 2, one project that will remove water from the Panama-Conway Basin and put it into the Mississippi River. And 3, one project that will certify the Laurel Ridge Levee and mitigate the effects of raising Highway 22. That's a quote from that work in October of 2018. We did that. We evaluated these projects with our own money, the money of the citizens of Ascension Parish. We used our funds, we tested these projects, and the outcome was that the pumping of Bayou Conway into the Mississippi River was positive, and the certifying of the Laurel Ridge Levee, along with the raising of Highway 22 to offset any effects of certifying the levee, and I believe to mitigate the rise in any impact in Livingston Parish, was positive. We have done our piece, and we are going, I believe tonight, give you the authorization that you need to proceed to become, or to attempt to become, our fiscal agent in these projects. But we want to know, and we want you to know, what we need to do to move these projects forward, and what you will need from us, because we're going to be on top of it. We're going to give you everything you need, but we do not intend to stand in line when we have put up as much money as the citizens of this parish have already put up to assess these projects. We want somebody to go in there fighting for us.
Well, I would, first off, I would commend Ascension Parish because at the Monday morning in an informational meeting, they believe you had the only parish president there. You certainly had the largest delegation in the room. And just to inform you that as part of this $1.2 billion, the state is required to do a number of public hearings. The first public hearing on this $1.2 billion will be September 25th. It'll be from 1:30 to 3:30 in House Committee Room 5 at the state capitol. So I encourage all of y'all who are interested to go there and make comments directly to the state and to the HUD officials who will be there wanting to take your comments.
And that's an important committee hearing, public meeting, because this is all about organizing and figuring out who's on first. That public hearing, they're going to tell you how they're going to spend the $1.2 billion. They're going to have different criteria for different types of projects. So we definitely are going to go to that meeting as well.
Very good. Well,
Can you
we
do
will,
that date and time again?
It'll be September 25th from 1:30 to 3:30, and it's in House Committee Room 5 at the bottom basement of the state capitol.
thank you very much.
Wednesday.
Mr. Kluot.
Yeah, just Jamie, once again, we're coming to the table tonight. I believe this resolution is going to pass when we finally slam the hammer on it. But we're ready for the fight, and you need to understand that, okay? And whoever's listening out there, and hopefully somebody in Baton Rouge is listening, because we've been, this parish, on the east side of the parish, in the past 30-something years, has spent $200 million of their own money with not a damn drop of federal money, okay? We have projects that we've worked 10 years to get permits on, and that was thought to be good, that now we've been held up a year and a half on, based on somebody else's inability to do something for their parish. And we've had nothing but sad excuses. You mentioned DOTD. We've met with DOTD. This is my third meeting today, by the way, okay? So, hey, we're coming. All right? And, I mean, I don't like to hear that we've got a committee that's going to be put together that's going to go 3 years or so, okay?
Yeah, that's the process that's being laid
Yeah.
out. I mean,
And I just want to reiterate that we've been told by our federal delegation that represents Louisiana that the money comes down from the feds, and they have certain, we've been waiting for, what's the guidelines on that, get that down. Then this, they tell us it's up to the state to disperse it, okay? All right? We know that Baton Rouge is where we got to be, all right? So, the election's about 3 weeks away. I don't think anything right now is going to change any election, but I'm still very disheartened to see that the plan is to just sit around for 3 years or so. And Mr. Daniels, you had made a statement that, or y'all had made, excuse me, Jamie, you had made a statement that on the 25th that there's going to kind of, basically tell us where they're going to spend the money at. I'm going to be there. Thank you.
One more comment.
Time-wise, I just want to make sure I'm clear on that. That's 3 years, and then we start picking
Well, they've kind of intertwined some of this, whereas within a year, a little more than a year, we need to have the steering committee basically roll out. It's time limited so that you can have your full watershed committee form. But within 2 years to have a project list, have been working with the models to come up with.
When you say roll out the steering committee, they're going to take a year to pick a committee?
No, the committee has a year to form up a real watershed council that will run the different watersheds across this Region 7. And that's kind of one of the intricacies that the state has put down, is that this Region 7 has 8 distinct watersheds in it that the DOTD is doing models on. But of the 8, the Amite River is the number 1 to have its model finished, to start using it.
Well, of all the grave injustices in the world, and apparently there are many grave injustices, this seems to be one.
Mr.
Okay,
President.
Madam Chairman, in the meeting Monday, I brought up to Pat Forbes that Congressman Graves' office said that the 10 impacted parishes was going to get half of the money.
Right.
And he informed me that the 10 impacted parishes would get, they might not get it directly as long as they get the benefit. So that don't make any sense. Now so he's saying one thing, and Graves' office said that those 10 parishes were going to get half. That's all I got to say. And the good part is if we get in this organization, and then we want to get out, we get out at any time. It's nothing we have to do.
Very good. All right, we have a motion and a second. I don't think there's any further comment to be had. Are there any objections? Mr. Dawson, what is
Oh,
your
I'm
objection?
I'm voting against it.
And I hope it's a protest vote.
I think it
I
is.
believe you guys are gonna pass it, and like I said from the beginning, I think CPRC is the right people to do it, but it's just the organization of this, I can't vote for it.
I got you. So we're gonna, Cinnamon, do you have a setup to vote electronically? All right, here we go. The voting machines are open. Thank you. The yeas have it, 10 to 1. Close the machines, Mrs.
Any further questions, y'all?
Jamie, just fight for us, man.
do so.
And we will get you anything you need to fight for us. And, we appreciate you very much. I have confidence in you. And I think this body has confidence in you. And so does Mr. Dawson. He just hates the process.
Thank you very much, Madam
Thank you,
Chairwoman.
sir. Item number 9. Approval to submit an application for fiscal year 2019-2020 Community Water Enrichment Funds Grant. Ms. Martha.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, members of the council. I want to first of all thank our legislative delegation because these grants are funded by their votes to allow the community water enrichment and the Louisiana GAP, or Louisiana Government Assistance. So they play a big part in making sure that the funds are there for us to have.
Motion.
I have a motion by Councilman Satterlee, a second by Councilman Cagnolati. Are there any questions? Any objections? Hearing none, that motion passes. Item number 10, approval to submit an application for fiscal year 2019-2020 Local Government Assistance Program. Martha?
It's going to be $100,000. We'll be able to, thank you.
I have a motion by Councilman Dempsey Lambert, a second by
me
Councilman
see.
Benny Johnson. Are there any objections? Are there any questions? Any objections? Hearing none, that motion passes. Item number 11, approval to accept a grant award in the amount of $61,606.44 for the fiscal year 2019 State Homeland Security Grant. Ms. Martha.
Motion.
Have a motion by Councilman Randy Cluott and a second by Councilman Todd Lambert. Any questions? Any objections? Hearing none, that motion passes. Item number 12, approval to submit an application for the fiscal year 2019 Pre-Disaster Mitigation Grant.
Motion.
Have a motion by Councilman Cluott.
Second.
Second by Councilman Cagnolati. Are there any questions? Any objections? Hearing none, that motion passes.
Y'all know what to do.
Item number 13, approval to submit an application for the fiscal year 2019 Flood Mitigation Assistance Grant.
Motion.
Have a motion by Councilman Randy Cluott, a second by Councilman Todd Lambert. Any questions? Any objections? Hearing none, that motion passes. Item number 14, approval of payment of an invoice to Entergy to remove, relocate.
Don't want to know what it is, I'll tell you.
Excuse me, I'll have to get back to that. Approval of payment for invoice, Entergy, to remove or relocate three-phase primary electrical line located on the west side of the new courthouse. Have a motion by Councilman Benny Johnson.
Second.
And a second by Councilman Cagnolati. Any questions? Any objections? Hearing none, that motion passes. Item number 15 under public hearings for ordinances. Reading of an ordinance to adopt the Ascension Parish Animal Service Board bylaws. O'Neill, do you want to read?
I'll read it. To amend the Ascension Parish Code of Ordinances, Chapter 5, Animals, and file Article 3, Animal Control, Division 1, generally, and to add Section 536, Animal Parish, Animal Services Board bylaws. Whereas Ascension Parish is a local government subdivision is defined by Article 6, Section 44, Louisiana Constitution 1974. Whereas the Parish of Ascension is governing and responsible body over animals involved. Whereas the Code of Ordinances, Chapter 5, Article 3, Animal Control was last amended on February 2nd, 2002. Now therefore be it ordained by the Ascension Parish Governing Authority that the Code of Ordinances of Ascension Parish, Chapter 5, Animal File, Article 3, Division 1, but generally be amended to add Section 536, Ascension Parish Animal Services Board bylaws, as more fully described as Exhibit A attached here to and made a part hereof. This ordinance shall be in full effect as permitted by law. The ordinance has been submitted to a vote. The vote thereon was as follows.
Mr. Cagnolati, did you have a comment?
Motion to a public hearing.
Second.
Second.
I have a motion to open the public hearing. Are there any, I don't have
Move to
any,
close.
I don't have any speakers.
Second.
Motion to close in a second. Now, Mr. Cagnolati?
Madam Chair, I'd like to introduce Exhibit A under the ordinance. We've made some amendments to that, thanking certain council members, Doc Satterley, Bill, Terry, and myself. And for the purpose of making it accurate, I'd like to ask the Secretary to read the Exhibit A as amended.
Secretary. I don't know the amendments.
Make the motion.
Would you like a motion first?
Yeah, I guess, whatever.
You have the motion
procedure calls for.
to approve them?
Yeah.
Do I have a second? Have a motion and a second to approve the amendments? We can read those into the record.
Somebody needs to do the, well,
Into the record.
Sentiment going to do that, I
I'm going to
believe.
read the amendments into the motion. The purpose of the Ascension Parish Animal Services Board hereinafter the ASB is to provide oversight, management, advice, recommendations, financial and operation reports, and presentations to the parish council and administration on matters involving animal services and related issues in Ascension Parish, Louisiana. The ASB will have fiduciary responsibility for the Ascension Parish Animal Services Department and ensure animal tax dollars are appropriately spent. Do you want me to read what was removed as well?
no.
No, thank you.
Okay. The vision of the ASB is that someday all citizens, their property, and their neighborhoods will be safe from the dangers and nuisances of irresponsible pet ownership. Animals will not suffer because of human abuse, neglect, or ignorance, and every pet born will have a good home and proper care all its natural life. In keeping with our vision, our mission is to balance the health, safety, and welfare needs of people and animals in Ascension Parish by protecting the rights of people from dangers and nuisances caused by uncontrolled animals, ensuring the legal protection of animals from mistreatment, promoting, motivating, and enforcing responsible pet ownership, and being good stewards of the animal tax revenues of Ascension Parish.
You need to read it. It's already been introduced.
Do y'all,
to read it?
Just need to read the amendments that are.
y'all want the whole thing read or just the amendments?
I think you could do just the amendment, but quite frankly, I think for the purpose of the public understanding the document, I would read it all. We're following along, but because folks might have read it in some other way, it might seem disjointed if it's just the amendments.
Okay. So continue.
Please.
Members, yeah.
Article 3, members, the ASB shall consist of 7 members, which shall be appointed by the parish council and serve at the pleasure of the parish council, and will include, number 1, up to 3 citizens 18 years of age or older who are residents of Ascension Parish with a primary interest in the care, handling, or rescue of pets and companion animals. No organization, agency, or association may have more than 1 representative holding one of these seats at any given time. Number 2, 1 citizen 18 years of age or older with expertise in finance, business development, or business operations. Number 3, 1 practicing or retired veterinarian who is licensed in the state of Louisiana and is not employed by or under contract with Ascension Parish. 1 citizen 18 years of age or older who does not fall within the foregoing categories. Number 5, a current parish council member appointed by council chairperson. Members shall annually elect from its members a chairperson, vice chairperson, secretary, and treasurer, who could be the same person, the secretary and treasurer. The parish council board member is not eligible for any of these positions. There shall be an executive director who will be hired by the ASB and report to the ASB. Board members are encouraged to visit and/or volunteer at the Ascension Parish Animal Services Shelter on a semi-annual basis in an effort to remain educated and informed on animal services issues. Employees of companies or members of organizations involved with animal services under contract with Ascension Parish cannot serve on the ASB. The ASB may request that a member be removed for cause. Removal for cause may include 3 or more unexcused absences during a single term. For an absence to be excused, members are encouraged to contact the chairperson within 24 hours prior to a posted meeting if they are unable to attend. Any board member may be removed with or without cause by a simple majority of the parish council members at a duly convened meeting. Terms of board members. ASB members will serve a term of 4 years, with one member's term expiring after the first 2 years, 3 of the members' terms expiring after the first 3 years, and the other 3 members' terms expiring after 4 years. This will create the appropriate stagger so the terms of board members will not all expire at the same time. Following the first 4 years, members appointed to the board will each serve a 4-year term and either roll off the board or be reappointed if they reapply and are approved by the parish council. Article 4, meetings. Meetings of members of the ASB shall be monthly. Items may be placed on the agenda at the request of the parish president, chairperson of the parish council, the ASB chairperson, by the request and agreement of any 2 current board members. Agendas will be prepared by the chair prior to public posting of agendas. Meeting minutes will be prepared for ASB approval. Meetings shall be conducted by the chairperson, and if absent by the vice chairperson, a quorum shall consist of a simple majority of the ASB. Special meetings may be called by the chairman, must be in compliance with the Louisiana Open Meetings Law. Meetings will be conducted under Robert's Rules of Order. Article 5, operation. The ASB shall establish rules and regulations for operation of its facilities. These rules and regulations shall be submitted to the parish council for ratification. The ASB must review and approve all contracts with the parish for animal services. The ASB will discuss animal matters and make recommendations to the parish on the parish's animal care and control issues. The ASB will promote safe and healthy use of public spaces by pets and pet owners. The ASB will annually review the parish's animal services ordinances and make appropriate recommendations for amendments to the council.
Thank you very much. Oh, that was tedious. Mr. Dawson.
It looked to me like we had one that we left out or we didn't. What I remember, if you go to, this would be under Article 3, and it starts out, it's right after the numerical list, 1 through 5. That paragraph and the last sentence of that, there shall be an executive director who will be hired by the ASB. And then I thought we had reporting through its chairman to the ASB. Is that correct, Johnny? Well, we ended up scratching through both of these, reporting through the chairperson.
It's in the next paragraph. There should be an executive director who will be hired by the ASB and reporting to the ASB through the chairperson.
Do you want to have that reporting through the chairman?
If you're reporting to the board, you're reporting to the chairman.
So I'd like to propose that we change that.
We did have it in there.
Revise that to have it reporting through the chairman to the ASB.
Right.
I think that was the intent, what I remember.
Correct.
And we just somehow.
Okay. Mr. Kluwat.
Yeah, so you have this board going to seek out and hire a director? This board will?
Yes.
Yes.
Just like the library board does.
Randy, if it causes you concern, we could say it must be ratified by the council.
I would appreciate that.
We can simply add that.
I think the intent of everything else in there is that the council have some oversight.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's a good catch.
Good catch.
Good catch.
Can we make that change? I'd like a substitute motion with that in it.
Second.
Well, we're not going to be able to substitute more than twice, Madam Chairman, as a point of order, so could we hold a substitute till we get all the rest of the changes? I have some as well.
Okay. Are you willing to do that, Randy? Wait and see what else we might have?
Sure, as long as that's in there.
Yeah, absolutely. Mr. Joseph?
Yes. On this job description, do the council going to decide what that salary gonna be based on that job description? Like Randy said, we have some input, but I mean, if that board gonna do it, who gonna decide how much that director gonna get paid? How much authority do we have in that?
I think the budget.
That's a good question.
Well, I mean, if it gonna fall,
The budget is approved by the board in your document, Mr. Brewer.
yeah, but we
And-
do the job description and we do the tier, how much each, position get paid. Is that gonna be a new one? They gonna come to us to get approved? Before they're appointing or hiring a director?
We'll have to add that in there.
We'll have to add that in there.
We'll have it.
Getting,
I mean, that's
Get
just a
mighty convoluted.
question. I don't know, I wouldn't.
I would think it would be a cooperative effort between the board and administration. They all have to work together. And the department's not gonna be,
Well,
Day-to-day
then that
operated
language,
by the board.
that language should say something, because somebody got to bring it to us to approve that job description plus their salary. I mean, every other new salary that comes up here now, before you add it, it comes to personnel, then it goes through to the council, if I'm not mistaken.
Mr. President, you had a comment?
I'll recommend that change.
If the way y'all kind of setting it up, almost autonomous, and if y'all don't want HR department, or anybody to deal with it, that's what, the way y'all going. I didn't really read the contract, but I mean, I think we ought to use our services. The board can do X amount, but the money should be approved by y'all. And I mean, our HR can help set it up with the board. We can use our expertise in that area, whatever y'all want to do.
So I would make that revision, which would add to Mr. Kluat's motion that the appointment of the executive director had to be ratified, but it would also be the appointment of the executive director and the salary for the executive director would have to be ratified by the council.
Benny?
yeah, I got a question, because I think we might be heading in a direction, not that I'm opposed to what y'all talking about, but are we gonna contract this out to somebody else to run like what we're doing with Kara, or is this board gonna run the system? Because if we're not contracting this out for anybody else to run, and the board's gonna hire employees to run the system and so forth and so on, then I think that's fine. But if we're gonna do a contract like with an organization like CARE to run it, telling them, why do we need a director? We got a board that's gonna oversee a contract of a third party to run animal shelter for us, right? So they wouldn't necessarily need a director over that. And as a question, maybe you do, maybe you don't. I don't know. I'm just I'm thinking on the fly as we're going here.
Throwing a mill of
And-
1.2 million at it.
I don't disagree with that, but I mean,
So they got free reign?
Well, the idea is that
Free
you'd
rein?
have
No,
this
they're gonna
board,
come to us.
the executive director would report to this board. And the board would make a decision about what services they contract and what services they use in-house. Currently, of course, we contract the shelter services and in-house the animal control services, but you'd have this one executive director would be over both of those if they contracted out the shelter, and then you have the parish employees that do the animal control.
so are they gonna go out for bids for a company to provide either of those services when it reaches the threshold?
I think that the board has to be in compliance with our purchasing procedures, and, they'll have to be the ultimate decider, but they have to be in compliance with our ordinances.
Mr. President?
Hey, I talked to Kara a little bit about some things. I hadn't talked to him in a while, but I don't know if we're ready to pass this tonight because of a lot of questions. For example, we just brought up about, well, what y'all gonna get from the administration? So is Kara gonna be parish employees? Or, and I didn't think they were going to be. So I don't know, you know what I mean, Bill? With benefits and all that, I don't know all that.
We never imagined that, but again, some of these things we imagined would be a decision of the board. But when we originally talked about it, it was Cara or someone like Cara would do the animal shelter. They would have their employees. We would contract them very similarly to what we do today. But yet we would keep our animal control people, but they would all fit under this same umbrella.
But that's not what Kara told me. They wasn't sure, and I haven't talked to them recently, because if they're going to do 7 days, you see, we limited on, we have 2 animal control officers. They wanted to extend that to a lot more, and they were going to run all that at one time. I haven't talked to them. I think maybe we need to kind of have a little meeting to see what, because if that's what they want us to do, we can, Bill, but I'm not sure if that's what they want.
Madam Chair?
How are y'all?
That's-
We are good. Let me, if you'll give me just a second. Mr. Satterley had something he wanted to say, and then we'll go to John.
Well, I actually have 5 or 6 things, but let's continue with what Mr. Matasta is saying and what Benny is saying and what Mr. Dawson is saying, all of which is important, and, you know, we need to have resolution on it. I'm not necessarily in favor, Madam Chairwoman, of pushing this down the line, although I made that plea and you convinced me that we could do it tonight this way, so let's still try to stay up on the balance beam. I have been in conversation with Cara. I'm in conversation with them quite often, and I believe it is their wish, if not intention, or if possible, if approved through all the proper authorities, that one day we would amalgamate the board with the shelter, and everything would be under one roof and one control and so forth. There's an economy of scale there. There's an efficiency there, so forth and so on. And we could debate how many ACOs, animal control officers, would be involved or whatever. But so now the question becomes, do we need this created position of the executive director that's currently in our packets? Or, as Mr. Johnson has said, is that necessary? Just let the board go, you know, ahead and handle it. I actually support more not having the executive director and having the board just handle it like other boards that we do have that don't have executive directors per se over them as well. It just creates another level of bureaucracy, another person to be paid. Then we're getting into this contest right now about who appoints that person, what is their salary, how do we ratify them by the council, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But after that wrinkle is worked out, I'm pretty sure I could probably go along with whatever we do. But I want to point attention now to these other 3 or 4 areas that I've detected. When Ms. Gaultier was reading the actual Exhibit A into the record, you know, direct your attention, gentlemen and lady, to Article 2, Vision and Mission. Under the sentence indented that reads, protecting the rights of people from dangers, and she read it correctly, but the word is wrong, nuisances caused by uncontrolled animals. When I say she read it wrong, or it's the wrong word, the word was nuances or in the earlier version. So which is it that we want?
Nuisances.
Nuisances.
That's the correct word there, not nuances?
Nuisances.
Well, no, nuance would definitely not be the right word there.
Okay, because it was nuances at one point in time, so I'm asking as a question. Number 2 is on the next page under meetings, under Article 4. The word "to" spelled out TWO before the 2 that's in parentheses somehow got lost in the back and forth currents of the edits that went on throughout the day today. I would recommend that we put, in addition to Mr. Claude's motion or whatever we do with this executive director situation, the word "to" in there. If we back up to what Mr. Parrington.
Doc, you're on the terms of the board, right?
I'm under Article 4 meetings.
Okay.
The 4th sentence down has just a 2 in parentheses in it.
Yeah.
You need the text TWO in front of the 2 in parentheses. Mr. Parrington read the actual resolution, and under the, I believe it's the whereas be it resolved statement. Hang on, I'll pull it up here in a minute. Now therefore be it ordained by the Ascension Parish Governing Authority, the Code of Ordinance of Ascension Parish, Chapter File, Animals and Fowl, blah, 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 be amended to add section, blah, 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 blah. And it concludes with Parish, Ascension Parish Animal Services Board bylaw. That should be bylaws, not by law, because there's a lot more than just one law in this Exhibit A. And let's see. And then the final comment, I made as a comment, but didn't recommend a change, so it's not in a strike-through or an addition in our packets tonight. But backing up to number, Article 3, under members, on the second page of the three-page document in front of us, if you come down to number 3, it says, as a member of the board, there'll be one practicing or retired veterinarian who is licensed in the state of Louisiana. My comment, which has been glossed over, but I think we need to discuss, behind the scenes was, so if a retired veterinarian applies, there's a good likelihood he's no longer licensed because he's not, practicing, he don't want to pay the money. Is he to be excluded from this board, or? I would think not. I mean, he might have been a distinguished 30 years of service in the parish, or be a teacher at the LSU veterinary school, whatever. So I wouldn't exclude old dogs, no pun intended, just because they don't have a current license to practice medicine when they've done so for maybe 30 or 40 years.
Doctor, does that hang with you forever? I don't know.
I wouldn't want to see that person, Mr. Cluat, excluded. I don't know about you. I think that person would bring a lot to the table. And plus they'd have a lot of time on their hands. I'm retired, and so I have more time to do council work than most of the people in this council that are gainfully employed, and that's understandable. That's just a fact. And so I think the current language suffers, frankly, because it would exclude a retired veterinarian that doesn't have a license.
Mr. Cagnolati.
Yeah, the intent was one practicing or retired veterinarian who is licensed. That's the intent.
So
the intent is only a licensed veterinarian, whether they're retired or not?
That's the way it's reading. If
That's
that
what I'm
needs to
saying.
be
I
changed.
think that's a poor reading. I think it should say a retired guy can still apply, even if he doesn't have a license to practice.
The intent was
I mean, is he going to if he's on his board, is he going to practice? Is he going to do surgery? Is he going to vaccinate? The answer to all these things are no, no, no. He's going to render professional advice to this board.
If the intent was to have a licensed veterinarian, he could be active or retired. So is your intent for licensed? You don't care whether he's working or not, right?
I looked at other parishes, counties, and that's basically similar wording, almost exactly the same wording.
Well, as it's worded right now, and I was retired and I didn't have my license up to date because I let it lapse because I'm not practicing, I'd feel like I can't apply. That's the way it's worded. I mean, tell me it doesn't say that.
Doc. That's how it's worded. But what is
Mr.
the intent?
Dawson.
If the intent is to have a licensed guide, and we change the wording to make sure it's licensed.
Look, I don't think we're ready. So I'm gonna move that we refer this to. I'm thinking a special committee, and if people want to serve, of council members,
Go back
and
to personnel.
go back to personnel, or either get a special committee that whoever wants to serve on it. Doesn't matter to me, but I move that we refer it to some committee.
Madam Chair, make a
personnel.
motion, we
Yeah.
or second that we reverse it back to personnel.
Right.
But give,
I think we're getting close. We have a great framework, and so if it goes back to personnel, we can have some more, a little more work on it. Maybe some justifications.
Maybe we have
going
some
forward.
working sessions, because I don't know.
All right, Mr. Lambert?
Yeah, before we close out, I'd like to, they made a special trip to come up, if you
Sure.
don't mind, please.
Sure, absolutely. Hi, dear.
I'm Reagan Daniel. I'm the president of Caris House. Thank y'all for having us. And this is Allison Tanner. She's our secretary. I have a few questions.
Well,
What
first
we
off,
originally
let me
discussed-
advise you that this is our document for the long term.
Yes, ma'am.
So it's not about our current situation and its relationship to Kara.
I understand that.
So I just want to make sure you know.
Yes, ma'am.
And I'm not sure how many questions we'll be able to ask, because as you can see, we all have a lot of different
And we have
cares and
plenty of
concerns.
questions, too. I understand.
And plenty of questions, too. But on that note, go right ahead.
So when we originally discussed in front of the council that in order for us to have an increase in our budget, that we needed to propose a tax, and if that tax passed, great. And that at that time, it was discussed as being an advisory board. So my understanding of what I've listened to tonight is that the board is, I think it said rules and regulations of animal services. So I'm a little confused of how exactly this would work if the board is over rules and regulations, But then Kara's House also has a board of members and a staff that has a boss. So it seems like there's going to be a lot of chiefs and not sure. Our understanding was that Kara's House would still be in charge of our facility. We would still have our own rules, our own regulations, and that we would not be parish employees. Well, not me.
Yeah.
Not board members, but our employees. And that also that the board, that there would be no hard positions involved in this whole aspect. And then tonight was discussed hiring a director. So I'm a little confused of how that's going to work. Yes, sir.
No, I get recognized by the chair, ma'am.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were asking me to shut up so you could say something.
No, I don't have any questions.
Okay.
Okay. All righty. So I see, we hear your concerns.
Yes, ma'am.
And we can't answer your questions right
Okay.
now. Obviously, this body will have to deliberate further in its personnel committee. We will take under advisement your concerns.
Yes, ma'am.
Absolutely. I'm sure that Mr. Cagnolotti has made note of those. And Mr. Dawson has a comment, and I think Mr. Cagnolotti and Mr. Lawler, so we'll start with Mr. Cagnolotti.
The intent, which Personnel Committee was charged with developing bylaws
Right.
for Animal Services Board. And there was a concern about timing, because the money is being collected this year. It was approved by the voters
Going
last
into
year.
effect in January.
Put on, started collecting in January. Is that right, Ms. Gwen? And
I'm on her way.
the money will not be available until January of 2020. And
Trying to get something in.
the impetus was put on us to have this board in place before that, so they could meet with the council, if necessary, meet with the administration, have a meeting with the administration and the contractors to say, how we're gonna make this work. So the board is gonna be there, not to come in and ride bull and take over and run the show. It's gonna coordinate how we're gonna operate the Animal Services Department. And who's gonna do what. And I think that's why we tackle the
Exactly.
getting this board created, so that we could get them on board and let them start meeting and deciding how they're gonna move forward. And I'm just saying, hopefully this, moving it back to my committee, I don't have a problem with that because there is some confusion, but I don't want it to push us into not finding out anything till the second meeting in October, start advertising for those positions, and then having to interview and hopefully get a board in place by the end of the year. That's my concern.
Absolutely. We will expedite it. Absolutely. Mr.
Or we can
Lawler.
have special meetings.
Absolutely.
I'm not objected to that.
Mr. Lawler.
That's part of what I was going to say, is one of my concerns. I know that when this came up on the ballot, one of the big things was these funds that we're collecting are going to be used to build an animal facility. And that was one of the main focuses of collecting this money, is that we build a first-class animal facility. This has to be done quickly, because as a voter, I hate saying I'm going to go pay a tax and then see nothing for it. And we're sitting here, and that's what we're about to have the voters do, is pay a tax and see nothing for it. I really don't like adding another paid position, an executive director. It's just another layer of bureaucracy that I don't think is needed. I think that would be a grave injustice to all the taxpayers to have just another position added. We just can't handle that many grave injustices in this short amount of time. So hopefully, this committee will look into that. I really viewed this more as a committee that's going to get together and figure out how to get this building built and have Kara on board to run the operation. And this committee is going to basically provide some oversight on, let's get the building going. And other than that, let the professionals run the animal shelter. They've been doing a great job with it. They're doing it at I think a reasonable cost right now. So that's what I'd like to see. I don't know if I'll be on this committee, this second little small committee. I don't know what's going on really. But one of the things I'd like to ask is that we move this as quickly as possible. Thank you.
We certainly will. Mr. Dawson.
Well, just had something I'd like to not necessarily add to the motion, but with my motion, I want to make sure that we do involve Kara and that their board is involved in this before we bring it back to the council, that they had a chance to review it. I also, just to remind everybody again, the thought was when at least I was involved with putting this together, was that you have two different factions there, or two different groups, which one is the shelter, obviously, but you have the animal control, which is also part of this. So that tax is, when we help put it together, the tax is going to pay for not just the shelter, but it's also going to pay for animal control, and then it's going to also pay for a bond to build a new shelter. So, I think that maybe, anyway, I just want to remind everybody that there are those people that are working in animal control, they're under this tax also, and under this same, thoughts were they would be under this same one umbrella.
Budget.
Now, whether whether that ends up in that exactly like that, I don't know. But we do want to make sure, because I was the chairman when this was started, and these people went out and they got that tax passed. I mean, I want to say that a lot of us doubted whether they could, but they went out there and they worked for it and they got that passed. So I think that they should be a part of the review before it comes back to us.
If
Mr.
they weren't,
President?
it'd be a grave, grave, grave injustice.
Well, all right.
You are into injustice.
I think, Kara's looking to try to operate it. This is spending the taxpayers' dollars correctly, and I don't think they were looking to put an executive director. I think they were going to use that money in other areas. But I'm in the process right now. I've got O'Neill drafting a letter to someone that might be the place to put the new shelter. And so I can't say nothing yet until it's approved. But I think we need a little more conversation. I got to commend Chairman Cagnolati and the whole committee, because this was from scratch to put together. And we still have some questions we've got to work out, but I think we ought to have a little meeting with Karen and talk to them before we make any total decisions. You know
And
what I'm
your
saying?
staff.
Thank y'all.
Mr. Mr. Satterley.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman, and I'm going to concur with the parish president, with Benny, who started originally, with Councilman Lawler that has amplified it, and in between that, actually, I guess I spoke and said I'm not overly enamored with the director as well. I'm not sure it's a grave, grave, grave injustice, whatever, but I think it is a level, I'm glad you used the same words, of bureaucracy we don't need. And I'm also rising to say, definitely, that they not only worked hard, their record is proven since they've taken over, that they need, I don't want to get people throw things at me, a seat at the table even before there's a seat at the table, so to speak. We need to be bouncing some of these ideas off them, because the intention is to continue to work with them. And who knows? I mean, maybe they'll be in the next CEA executed, their group not only running the animal control, the animal shelter that involves adoptions and fostering and all of that stuff, but also the animal control part that involves the vicious bite cases. So they do need that. Now, I just want to make another comment again about, that I missed earlier, on the membership of the 7 people that are on the ASB. Earlier language, and I apologize for not detecting it earlier, but when I was looking at it real strongly for the first time this morning, seems like it said something in there about Kara, and I'm not sure that's the intention of the Personnel Committee or not. Mr. Cagnolati, you can answer. Didn't have ability to have a member on the ASB, but as I read it now, it sounds like they do. Is that correct? A Kara member can actually be, it can't be more than one, because it says organizations that have one, or agencies or associations, they can't have more than one on the board. But could a Kara member
Like a
and/or board
volunteer,
member actually
yes.
be on the ASB?
Paragraph,
It's a
after
conflict of
5,
interest.
the
I don't
third
think they
paragraph,
can.
employees of companies or members of organizations involved with animal services under contract with Ascension Parish.
So the answer is
shall
no,
serve
they
on the
can't.
ASB.
That would be a violation of the ethics rules.
Okay, I'm just trying to get clarity there. Okay.
That's why I put that in there, because he told me so.
Okay. Well, he usually rules the roost, no pun intended again. But,
That would be a violation of the ethics rules.
I guess it was clear to me in the original version, but it's like, if you say it's still in there, that's cool.
So I'll just remind everyone that this will be going, I think we have a motion to defer. Let's vote on that. Are there any objections to that?
Could you, Madam Chairman, restate the motion?
No, I cannot.
Well, I can't
Not
vote on
all of
something
that
I'm-
that was.
Motion to defer to the Personnel Committee. There was
The
some-
motion is to send it back to the Personnel Committee. If I have to read all those others, absolutely. not.
Deferments usually require timelines, so.
I have a very preferred timeline. I
So-
want to get this done in the next 6 to 8 weeks. So especially,
Next
we
month.
need to get it done for next month, if at all possible, so that it is
Madam
finalized.
Chair, I have a question.
Month after.
If we convene in personnel, and this question is directed to O'Neill, do we have to reintroduce?
It's been introduced. You
All we
just
have to do is-
You have to put it back on for a public hearing and
okay.
act.
Okay,
That-
very
that'll
good.
help. That helps, yeah.
All righty. And Mr. Cagnolotti, perhaps when you have your meeting of the Personnel Committee, you might want to invite those members of this body who have any further interest in this particular item
Will
that
do.
would want to come and have some input in that.
Well, if you get over the quorum of 6 members, you're going to have some issues there, Mr. Parrington, or is that okay?
Not as long as you have a notice of a public meeting, then they can't participate in the vote, but they can come speak.
Right. That was my,
Okay.
that was my
We'll
thinking.
do-
That
we'll
way
make it a
everybody
public
can
meeting.
share what they're thinking.
So the motion is to defer to personnel with them bringing a recommendation by the very next council meeting.
Yes.
And with the encouragement that council members interested would attend Mr. Cagnolotti's meeting and speak out, and Kara's,
The next
If they-
council meeting.
Kara's
we'll
invited
choose
as
what's in
well.
there, no.
Yeah, I don't think the next council meeting was in
That
there,
may
but
not-
as soon as possible.
As soon as
It may take a
ASAP.
month, as soon as possible. But I also want to remind everyone that of the great work the Personnel Committee has done in starting from scratch. And now this is the purpose of this deliberative body, to look at all of this information and figure out what might further perfect this document. And I also want to remind everyone that this document is the bylaws of this organization. It is not about right now. It is about for decades to come, because you certainly hope that you don't have to make modifications to bylaws with any great frequency. So all of your input is appreciated. And are there any objections to the deferral? Hearing none, that motion passes. Thank you very much. Item number 16, a public hearing to consider an ordinance adopting the Ascension Parish, that was it, 18. Reading of an ordinance to amend the Ascension Parish Code of Ordinances, Article 6, Council Procedures, Section 2-100 through Section 2-101. Mr. Parrington.
To amend the Ascension Parish Code of Ordinances, Chapter 2, Administration, Article 6, Council Procedures, Section 2-100, Bylaws and Operating Procedures of the Parish Council Standing Committees, whereas Ascension Parish is a local government subdivision defined by Article 6, Section 44, Louisiana Constitution, 1974. Whereas on August 7, 2019, the Personnel Committee proposed certain changes to Chapter 2, Article 6 of the Ascension Parish Code of Ordinances. Now therefore be it ordained by the Ascension Parish Governing Authority that the Code of Ordinances of Ascension Parish, Chapter 2, Administration, Article 6, Council Procedures, Section 2-100, Bylaws and Operating Procedures of the Parish Council Standing Committees be amended as more fully described in Exhibit A attached hereto and made a part hereof. This ordinance shall be in full effect and submitted by law. The ordinance has been submitted to a vote. The vote thereon was as follows.
Motion.
I have a motion to open the public hearing by Councilman Todd Lambert and a second by Councilman Benny Johnson.
Motion to close.
I have a motion by Councilman Benny Johnson and a second by Councilman Satterley to close the public hearing. Now, I think for the sake of keeping this to a minimum, that this one, since most of the changes, with maybe a few small exceptions, if we want to read those, we can, but the rest are changing a "the" to an "and," or change a capital P to a little p, or so if you guys will look at these, if there are some that you want to discuss, or if you want to make a motion to approve them all as they are on this document before you, that would shorten our process here. Benny?
Just reading through this, I do have one question. So item number 2 on the first page, the chair shall annually select the chairperson of all council committees who will submit reports to each council meeting following a monthly committee. It doesn't say about appointing other members to the committees. So does that need to be in there as well, as far as, because I didn't see it anywhere else as I'm skimming through this document.
Shall you
So
appoint the chair and the
appoint-
committee?
Yeah, appoint the
That's what you're
chair
kinda looking for.
and the committee members.
So we need to correct that. That's not anywhere else in, that's missing from
Didn't
here
see it.
that
I
you all are
don't see it
aware of?
anywhere, that's why I was,
While you searching that, madam, can I ask a
As
quick
well as
question?
the
That's a real
members?
good catch.
Good catch.
Mm.
it may need to be the council chair, shall I, and you select.
Well, it says in item 5, it says, "All committees shall consist of 5 or more members chosen by the chair."
Okay, there it is.
Okay,
Oh,
Dan.
Okay.
okay.
Never mind.
Got it.
Catch that, thank you. Yeah, missed that one.
Good catch, everybody. Okay. Any further questions, comments?
Yeah, real
Mr. S-
quick.
I have to, I had heard Randy first. Dan, if you don't mind, I'm going to defer to him for a second. Mr. Kluwat.
So the gist of this, you saying, is basically cleaning up?
Yes. Little
All right.
F's, there's not any significant changes of which I'm aware. And if you want to go through them, we can.
No, I just want the public to know that what we're doing is clarifying
Mm-hmm.
the abilities of the council chairperson. Most of it is, and how he or she selects, that she has the authority to select the committee chair and the committee members. And that's not anything different than we've been doing.
Correct.
And not unless there's something in here that I'm missing a word that's changed.
We just added the word annually. The committee added the
You
word
d-
annually.
And I just want to point out that on 8C, any presentation to the committee regarding accomplishments and activities of board and agencies with budgets of $50,000 will be scheduled by the secretary. Is that was inadvertently left out? That's new?
Yeah, it was inadvertently
That's
left
new?
out.
It wasn't in there before, is what you're saying.
It was in there before, when it went to personnel, and it was edited, it was sent back and forth to legal department, back
So
to us.
It was left out.
But it was already in there,
Inadvertent.
and it was, yeah,
But it's nothing new.
no.
Madam Chair?
Yes, Mr. Cagnotti.
Basically, what we did, the bylaws for operating procedures for parish council, item 8, under section 2-100, the first group, that was inadvertently put under personnel. And so what we did is we just basically moved it from where it was under personnel, under all standing committees. So it would apply to all.
Thank you very much. Mr. Sadler?
Yeah, so I have 3 things. One, I'll call it right now the clue out amendment. He's kind of covered it. Number C, where it says any presentation of committee regarding accomplishments and activities, where Cinnamon has penciled in, it was inadvertently left out. That's why you see the DS1 back there. When I received this, it was a run-on sentence with no verbs, and what you have highlighted in pink wasn't there. I'm pleased to learn it was there in the original, it was just left out. But there's also some language problems there. Any presentation to committee, didn't that say any presentation to a council committee? Or the council committee?
To the council.
The council, it's a council.
Or just the council, take committee out. And then later on in the
Original
sentence,
finance,
in the
though,
pink
wasn't
that's been added, it says of boards and agencies with budgets of 50,000, that's exacting. Does that mean imply with budgets of at least 50,000?
I just don't remember that being anywhere, so I guess my ignorance.
I would highly recommend we change committee to council and then insert at least in front of 50,000.
So for years now, Mr. Satterley, we've been going to finance with these board and commission reports. So
I understand.
Do we prefer that go to finance?
That's a whole separate issue, but where is that are you reading from?
Well,
To
any
finance
presentation
committee.
to the committee,
Insert finance.
number C, you're suggesting we
Oh, I
change
see.
committee to council?
So you want to read?
I think it
leave
was supposed to
committee,
read
but
the
say
finance committee.
Finance committee.
I have no objection to that. I'm just saying that it was undefined who the committee was.
Yeah, I think that's what got left out, was the finance committee.
So we're going to be inserting the word now to the finance in front of committee.
Right there, so, yeah,
The finance.
put the finance committee in front
And
of
how about the $50,000? with budgets of at least $50,000?
I think absolutely. Do
Okay.
y'all agree with that?
Yeah.
Everybody
All right.
agrees with that? That's
Moving
a
down to number
missing
9
word.
then, Part B, Utilities Committee, parentheses says sewage, water. You're going to see DS2 there because I had a comment there that didn't reflect into this. And my comment was, all three of the responsibilities for the Utilities Committee, and as chair, I know that's not all that we do, I assure you, and even as a member for 8 years, we have bought People's Water, which has become Parish Utilities of Ascension. So it's not just sewer, sanitary sewage, and solid waste. We also have a waterworks. So somewhere in there, as a responsibility, we should address, in my mind.
Got water written there.
Right, but under the steps 1, 2, and 3,
Oh, okay.
you know, so my gut reaction would be, under 1, you could say, act as a liaison with state and federal agencies with reference to waste management
Yeah.
and Parish Utilities of Ascension Waterworks. On the number 2, you could do the same thing at the end of the sentence, with reference to sanitary sewage collection and disposal and Parish Utilities of Ascension Waterworks, period. And then on the number 3, right before the parentheses, including funding of such plans, develop long-term plans for future needs of the parish's sewerage, comma, get rid of the word and, solid waste,
And water.
and PUA waterworks. Parish Utilities of Ascension Waterworks, including funding of such plans. Because my point is, the PUA, there's no mention of the utility committee's role in potable water. It's all dirty water.
Yeah, you don't need PUA, you can just put water.
Or waterworks,
That's all water, water.
however you want to do that, but it's been omitted.
I guess,
The acronym makes.
So everything I said without PUA, but just do waterworks each
Yeah,
time.
water, just add water, we're not covering
Benny?
water.
to kind of add to Councilman Satterley's discussion here, one of the things that's fixing to come up is this issue with the 5G, which would be considered a utility, which I would assume would go through the Utilities Committee. So could we not necessarily take that out, but have that as an item for utilities to clarify more? Because you get into utilities, you're talking more than just water and sewer and those type of things. So we may need to go through and update that further than what Councilman Sally's bringing up.
I think at the appropriate time, that's something we'd have to do, but
when it
I don't think we
comes.
can put it into our bylaws right now, because right now we haven't approved any
No.
franchise agreement with AT&T to do 5G technology in the Parish of Ascension.
Well, but before that franchise agreement is there, that's where it's going to come through. So you would have, I mean,
Right.
well, my point of it is not so much that it's already here, but any type of utility that you're dealing with should be listed underneath that title. That's not there. So are we limiting ourselves by putting us with just those particular things and not broaden that definition and saying just send that back to the committee to look at that a little bit deeper, because you're bringing up some
My
points that we
opinion would be
didn't talk
you add it at the time in which we approve it.
Okay. Mr. Dawson?
I
Well, I mean,
have a third
Oh,
one.
I'm sorry, I
Okay.
apologize.
Transportation Committee, item number 1, 2, 3, 4, it's number 5. It says review engineering status reports on projects from Parish Road Manager. You see the DS3 there again. My comment is not reflected, but I was asking a sense, can't get the specific words because I don't have that copy in front of me, but who is this Parish Road Manager person?
I don't know, I saw
that.
that myself.
I don't know if
You have a
that's.
public work director that handles roads falling underneath him, right?
Yeah, I don't know if that would be, to name a name, like Mike Enlow now, or Alan Bro, or if that would actually fall under Mr. Daniels, but.
What does it say in our org chart, or, well, let me back that off. Who is the Parish Road Manager? Who is that person? We're going to refer to it in our bylaws, we better have one.
Well, then you can change it over to Public Works Department, because he's the one.
We just don't have a name of a manager, right?
Right. You have a Public
title.
Work Department that handles the road, so you have a Public Work Director.
Do we have a Public Works Director, or do we have an Infrastructure Development Director right now that does Public Works? You see the problem I'm having here?
Yes, yes, absolutely. We're hashing this out. Bill, did you have a comment you wanted to make?
Well, I was just going to offer something in this B, in the Utilities Committee, and we could do sewage, water, gas, electric, or other items normally considered utilities, comma, ETC, and then you don't have to be specific about that.
Okay.
Catch on.
Or other items considered utilities?
Yeah, normally considered utilities. Because I agree with you, I don't know what the 5G, I don't even know what classifier you put that under.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, you probably would never want to be specific, because the
Yeah.
history of it, beginning in, I believe it's 1970, was 1G, then there was 2Gs, 3G, 4G, which we currently have, and many people are transitioning to 5G.
Just keep it
Who
general.
knows, tomorrow is it going to be 6G, 8G, 10G, I don't know.
You can bet.
But communication,
Okay, anybody have any
The parish-
recommendation for the language in number 5 under the Transportation Committee? Mr. Lawler?
I would just say from the administration, because I know that several times we'll have Mike Enlow does part of it.
Yeah, that's
Tayce
right.
Rapollet does a part that she specializes in.
Yeah.
Sometimes Alan Bro will come in and do a part that he specializes in.
Good.
I
Like
think it's
that.
the best way to do it.
Very general, gives us a good, okay, anything else?
So Mr. Lawler's recommending deleting parish road manager and replacing it with the administration? The administration.
Yes.
Okay.
Any other comments or questions, gentlemen? So are we prepared to, Cinnamon, do you think you have everything we've discussed?
I do.
Okay. Are we prepared to, we have a motion and a second to approve? So we have a motion to move the ordinance from Mr. Cagnalotti. We have a second by Mr. Todd Lambert.
So that includes these revisions that we
Includes as
just
amended.
recently
As
talked
amended.
about, correct?
Correct.
Amended.
Any objections? Hearing none, that motion passes. All right, good job, gentlemen. Good job. Let me make sure I'm in the right
Madam
place.
Chairman, I want
Okay.
Mr. Dawson on that committee.
Item number 21, reading of an ordinance to create a road infrastructure district, in the future referred to as RID, and that's how it's going to be referred to by me the rest of the evening, designated as Parish of Ascension RID number DD 2019-01 Brookstone subdivision pursuant to the Ascension Parish Unified Land Development Code, Appendix 4, Subdivision Regulations, Section 17-4011, Approval of Final Plat Procedures, F, Infrastructure Development Districts. Mr. Parrington.
Create a road infrastructure district designated as Parish of Ascension Road Infrastructure District, IDD 201901 pursuant to Ascension Parish Unified Land Development Code, Appendix 4, Subdivision Regulations, Section 174011, Approval of Final Plat Procedure, Infrastructure Development District. Whereas the Ascension Parish local government subdivision is defined by Article 6, Section 44, Louisiana Constitution 1974. Whereas the parish is responsible is the governing and responsible body over subdivisions, and whereas Article 6 of the Home Rule Charter of Ascension Parish, adopted May 4th, 1993, identifies a process and manner in which to adopt ordinances regulating the lands of this parish. Now therefore be it ordained by the Ascension Parish governing authority that the road infrastructure district designated as Ascension Road Infrastructure District ID 201901 be created pursuant to Unified Land Development Code of Ascension Parish, Appendix 4, Subdivision Regulations, Section 174011, Approval of Plat Procedure, Infrastructure Development District with boundaries of the road infrastructure district defined as and made a part of the subdivision of Ascension Parish named Brookstone subdivision is more fully described in Exhibits A, B, and B1, petition and exhibit to create an Ascension Parish Road Infrastructure District attached hereto and made a part hereof. In the event any portion of this ordinance is ever held invalid or unconstitutional for any reason by any court of competent jurisdiction over it, such portions shall be deemed separate, distinct, and independent provisions shall not affect the validity of remaining portions of the ordinance. This ordinance shall be in full effect as permitted by law. The ordinance has been submitted to a vote. The vote thereon was as follows.
Motion open public hearing.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Johnson, second by Councilman Todd Lambert to open the public hearing.
Motion to close.
Have a motion by Councilman Satterley, second by Councilman Bill Dawson to close the public hearing.
Move the ordinance.
Have a motion by Councilman Todd Lambert, second by Councilman John Cagnalotti to move the ordinance. Are there any objections? Hearing none, that motion passes. Item number 24, Reading of an ordinance to create an RID designated as Parish of Ascension Road Infrastructure District number IDD-2019-02, Camellia Cove subdivision pursuant to Ascension Parish Unified Land Development Code, Appendix 4, Subdivision Regulations, Section 17-4011, approval of final plat procedures, F, Infrastructure Development District.
To create a road infrastructure district designated as a Parish of Ascension Road Infrastructure District, IDD 2019-02, pursuant to Ascension Parish Unified Land Development Code, Appendix 4, Subdivision Regulations, Section 174011, approval of final plat procedure, F, Infrastructure Development District. Whereas Ascension Parish is a local government subdivision defined by Article 6, Section 44, Louisiana Constitution 1974. Whereas the Parish of Ascension is the governing and responsible body over subdivisions, and whereas Article 6 of the Home Rule Charter of Ascension Parish adopted May 4th, 1993 identifies a process and manner in which to adopt ordinances regulating the lands of the parish. And now therefore be it ordained by the Ascension Parish governing authority that a road infrastructure district designated as Ascension Parish Road Infrastructure District IDD 2019-02 be created pursuant to Unified Land Development Code of Ascension Parish, Appendix 4, Subdivision Regulations, Section 174011, approval of final plat procedure, F, Infrastructure District, with boundaries of the Road Infrastructure District defined as and made a part of the subdivision of Ascension Parish known as Camellia Cove subdivision, as more fully described in Exhibits A, B, and B1, petition exhibit to create Ascension Parish Road Infrastructure District attached here to and made a part hereof. In the event any portion of the ordinance is ever held invalid or unconstitutional for any reason by any court of common jurisdiction over it, such portion shall be deemed separate, distinct, and independent provisions, and shall not affect the validity of the remaining portions of the ordinance. The ordinance shall be in full effect submitted by law. The ordinance submitted to a vote. The vote thereon was as follows.
Motion to open public hearing.
Have a motion by Councilman Cagnolati, a second by Councilman Benny Johnson to open the public hearing.
Motion to close.
Have a motion by Councilman Satterly, a second by Councilman Dempsey Lambert to close the public hearing.
Motion to move the ordinance.
Have a motion by Councilman Aaron Lawler, second by Councilman Todd Lambert to move the ordinance. Any objections? Hearing none, that motion passes. Item number 27, excuse me, reading of an ordinance to create a order ID designated as Parish of Ascension Road Infrastructure District number IDD 2019-3, Cambray Oak subdivision pursuant to the Ascension Parish Unified Land Development Code, Appendix 4, Subdivision Regulations, Section 17-4011, approval of final plat procedures, F, Infrastructure Development District.
Create a road infrastructure district identified as Ascension Parish Road Infrastructure District IDD 2019-03 pursuant to Ascension Parish Unified Land Development Code, Appendix 4, Subdivision Regulations, Section 174011, approval of final plat procedure, F, Infrastructure Development District, whereas Ascension Parish is a local government subdivision defined by Article 6, Section 44, Louisiana Constitution 1974, whereas the Parish of Ascension is the governing responsible body of the subdivisions. Whereas Article 6 of the Home Rule Charter of Ascension Parish, dated May 4th, 1993, identifies the process and manner in which to adopt ordinances regulating the lands of this parish. Now therefore be it ordained by the Ascension Parish governing authority that the Road Infrastructure District designated as Ascension Road Infrastructure District IDD 2019-03 be created pursuant to Unified Land Development Code of Ascension Parish, Appendix 4, Subdivision Regulations, Section 174011, approval of final plat, F, Infrastructure Development District, with the boundaries of the Road Infrastructure District defined as it made a part of a subdivision of Ascension Parish named Cambray Oaks. Subdivision is more fully defined, described in Exhibit A. Petition exhibit to create a road infrastructure district attached hereto and made a part hereof. In the event any portion of the ordinance ever held invalid or unconstitutional by any court of competent jurisdiction over it, such portion shall be deemed separate, distinct, and independent provisions. Do not elect the remaining portions of the ordinance. The ordinance has been submitted to a vote. The vote thereon, the ordinance shall be in full effect submitted by law. The ordinance has been submitted to a vote. The vote thereon was as follows.
Motion open public hearing.
A motion by Councilman Benny Johnson, a second by Councilman John Cagnolati to open a public hearing. Motion to close. Motion by Councilman John Cagnolati, second by Councilman Todd Lambert to close the public hearing. You have a motion to move the ordinance by Councilman Dempsey Lambert and Councilman Benny Johnson. Any objections? Hearing none, that motion passes. Item number 30, reading of an ordinance to create a road infrastructure district designated as Parish of Ascension Road Infrastructure District number IDD 2019-04, Highland Trace subdivision, pursuant to the Ascension Parish Unified Land Development Code, Appendix 4, Subdivision Regulations, Section 17-4011, approval of final plat procedures, F Infrastructure Development District. Mr. Parrington.
Greater Road Infrastructure District designated Ascension Parish Road Infrastructure District IDD 2019-04 pursuant to Ascension Parish Unified Land Development Code, Appendix 4 Subdivision Regulations, Section 17-4011, approval of final plat procedure F Infrastructure Development District, whereas Ascension Parish local government subdivision defined by Article 6, Sections 44 Louisiana Constitution 1974. Whereas the Parish of Ascension is the governing responsible body of subdivisions, whereas Article 6 of the Home Rule Charter of Ascension Parish, adopted May 4th, 1993, identifies the process and manner which to adopt ordinances regulating the lands of the parish. And now, therefore, be it ordained by the Ascension Parish governing authority that the Road Infrastructure District designated Ascension Parish Road Infrastructure District IDD 2019-04 be created by the Unified Land Development Code of Ascension Parish, Appendix 4, Subdivisions Regulations 17-4011, approval of final plat procedure F Infrastructure Development District with the boundaries of the Road Infrastructure District defined as and made a part of the subdivision of Ascension Parish named Highland Trace subdivision as more fully described in Exhibit A, petition and exhibit to create Ascension Parish Road Infrastructure District attached hereto and made a part hereof. In the event any portion of this ordinance is ever held invalid or unconstitutional for any reason by any court of any competent jurisdiction over it, such portion shall be deemed separate, distinct, and independent provisions, shall not affect the validity of the remaining portions of the ordinance. This ordinance shall be in full effect as submitted by law. The ordinance has been submitted to a vote. The vote thereon was as follows.
Motion.
Have a motion by Councilman Todd Lambert, second by Councilman John Cagnolati to open a public hearing.
Motion to close.
Have a motion by Councilman Benny Johnson, second by Councilman Bill Dawson to close the hearing.
Move the ordinance.
Motion by second by Councilman Benny Johnson, second by Councilman Dempsey Lambert to move the ordinance. Any objections? Hearing none, that motion passes. All right. Item number 33. I'm sorry, I flipped the page too quickly. Go back one so I can read it. A reading of an ordinance to create a road infrastructure district designated as Parish of Ascension Road Infrastructure District number IDD-2019-5, Germany Oaks, Phase 2 subdivision, pursuant to the Ascension Parish Unified Land Development Code, Appendix 4, Subdivision Regulations, Section 17-4011, approval of a final plat procedures F Infrastructure Development District. Mr. Parrington.
The Greater Road Infrastructure District designated Ascension Parish Road Infrastructure District IDD 2019-05 pursuant to Ascension Parish Unified Land Development Code, Appendix 4 Subdivision Regulations, Section 17-4011, approval of final plat procedure F Infrastructure Development District, whereas Ascension Parish local government subdivision defined by Article 6, Section 44 Louisiana Constitution 1974. Whereas the Parish of Ascension is the governing responsible body over subdivisions, and whereas Article 6 of the Home Rule Charter of Ascension Parish, adopted May 4th, 1993, identifies the process and manner to adopt ordinances regulating the lands of the parish. Now therefore be it ordained by the Ascension Parish governing authority that the Road Infrastructure District designated as Ascension Parish Road Infrastructure District IDD 2019-05 be created pursuant to a Unified Land Development Code of Ascension Parish, Appendix 4 Subdivision Regulations, Section 17-4011, approval of final plat procedure Infrastructure Development District with the boundaries of the Road Infrastructure District defined as and made a part of the subdivision of Ascension Parish named Germany Oaks, Phase 2 subdivision, more fully described in Exhibits A, B, and B1. Petition exhibit to create an Ascension Parish Road Infrastructure District attached to and made a part hereof. In the event any portion of this ordinance is ever held invalid or unconstitutional for any reason by any court of competent jurisdiction over it, such portion shall be deemed separate, distinct, independent provisions, should not affect the validity of the remaining portions of the ordinance. The ordinance shall be in full effect as submitted by law. The ordinance has been submitted to a vote. The vote thereon was as follows.
Motion, Madam
Have
Chairman.
a motion by Councilman
Second.
Todd Lambert, second by Councilman Aaron Lawler to open a public hearing.
Motion to close.
Motion by Councilman Aaron Lawler, second by Councilman John Cagnolati
Motion
to
to
close
move
the
it.
public hearing. Motion by Councilman Aaron Lawler, second by Councilman John Cagnolotti to move the ordinance. Are there any objections? Hearing none, that motion passes.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Mr.
if I could
Cagnolotti.
give just a reminder, before our next council meeting, early voting will start.
Yes, absolutely.
Just to remind everybody, it's September 28th to October the 5th, but it'll be closed Sunday, the 29th. If you want an early
Absolutely.
vote, and of course, election day is October
Please,
12th.
please
Do it.
remember to early vote or to vote on October
else.
12th.
8:30 to
Also,
6 p.m.
it's 8:30 to 6 p.m. Don't forget about the Balloon Festival next
This weekend.
weekend. That's before our next meeting. And so the chair would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Madam
Oh,
Chair, I'll
Mr.
take the
well,
motion. And I
Mr.
want to recognize the young lady in the back from Nicholls State University. Big round of applause.
Thank you very much. All right, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
I have a motion and a second to adjourn. Thank you, gentlemen. All the dialogue was wonderful. Appreciate it. Everyone have a safe trip home.